My daughter-in-law Chloe called me a fat pig in front of her whole family. We were at her parents' house for the first time, a sprawling modern thing that screamed new money. I'd just taken a second helping of her mother's potato salad. Before we get too far into this, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button. You're not going to believe how this ends. God, Margaret, don't you ever stop, Chloe said, her voice loud and sweet with fake humor. The table went quiet. I mean, save some for the rest of us, you greedy pig. My son, Mark, stared at his plate. He didn't say a word. I just put my fork down. The potato salad tasted like ash. That's when her father, Richard, finally looked up from his phone. He'd been distracted all evening. His eyes landed on me, and the color drained from his face. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I knew Richard. Not socially, professionally. He was the regional sales director for the Northwestern division of my company. I'd just been appointed CEO 3 weeks ago after a hostile takeover. His department's performance review was on my desk, scheduled for Monday morning. It was not going to be a good meeting. He stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the tile floor. Margaret? He stammered. Margaret Jenkins. Chloe laughed. Dad, relax. It's just Mark's mom. Ms. Jenkins, he corrected, his voice tight. I didn't realize. My God, Chloe, this is Margaret Jenkins, the new CEO of Apex Global. The silence this time was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in the water pitcher. Chloe's smile didn't just fade. It shattered. Mark finally looked up, his eyes wide. Chloe's mother dropped her fork with a clatter. I took a slow sip of my water, placed the glass down precisely, and looked at Richard. It's a pleasure to finally meet the family, Richard. I've been looking forward to putting faces to the names. I let my gaze drift to Chloe, who looked like a deer in the headlights. It's certainly been an illuminating evening. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Mark, I'll see you at home. Thank you for dinner, I said to Chloe's mother, whose mouth was still hanging open. I walked out of that house, the sound of their stunned silence following me. My daughter-in-law thought she was insulting a harmless, overweight mother-in-law. She had no idea she was insulting the woman who held her father's entire financial future in her hands. The game had just changed. The Monday after the dinner, Richard was in my office at 8:59 a.m., a full minute early. He looked like he hadn't slept. I let him wait outside while I finished a call. I wanted him to sweat. I had his file on my desk. The numbers were bad. Missed targets, a bloated budget, low team morale. I'd already decided his fate before the dinner. The dinner just made the execution. Personal, send him in, I said to my assistant. He walked in, shoulders hunched. Ms. Jenkins, thank you for seeing me. Sit, Richard. I didn't smile. I let the silence hang for a moment, my eyes on the file. I've reviewed the Q3 projections for your division. They're unacceptable. He started to speak, a rehearsed excuse about market conditions. I held up a hand. I'm not interested. Effective immediately, your role is being made redundant. HR has your severance package. It's generous. More than you deserve, he stared, his career ending in 3 sentences. You're firing me? Because of what happened at dinner. I closed the file. I'm restructuring a failing division. The dinner just confirmed my decision was correct. A man who raises a daughter with such poor judgment and zero class is not a man I trust with a multi-million-dollar P&L. I stood up, a clear dismissal. Security will escort you to clear out your desk. He was still sputtering when my assistant and a security guard let him out. I picked up my phone and dialed my son. Mark, it's your mother. Mom, listen, about Chloe. She feels terrible. I'm sure she does. I've just fired her father. The silence on the other end was absolute. You. What? His performance was lacking. It was a business decision. Let that sink in. I'll see you for dinner on Sunday. I expect an apology. A real one. I hung up. The revenge was clean, clinical, and justified by the books. My daughter-in-law called me a fat pig. So I took her father's job, his status, and his 6-figure salary. It was a simple transaction. An eye for an eye. A career for an insult. A week later, Chloe showed up at my house alone. No Mark. She stood on the porch, wringing her hands. She looked smaller without her usual sneer. She didn't wait for an invitation. You destroyed my father. I took a sip of my tea, leaning against the doorframe. He destroyed his own career with poor performance. I just signed the paperwork. He's a wreck. He can't even get out of bed. Do you know what you've done to our family? I looked at her, this girl who thought cruelty was a party trick. Do you know what you did at that dinner table? You didn't just insult me. You showed your father and everyone in that room exactly who you are, and it cost him everything. Tears welled in her eyes, but they were tears of rage, not remorse. You're a monster. No, I said, my voice flat. I'm a CEO. I deal in consequences. You handed me one, and I acted on it. I started to close the door. Tell Mark I expect him for dinner on Sunday. You are not welcome. I closed the door before she could reply. I heard a choked sob, then the sound of her car peeling away from the curb. The next day, my son arrived. His face was grim. She's leaving me, Mom. She says she can't be with someone whose mother is ... you. I looked at him, this man I raised. If she's leaving you because I held her father accountable for his professional failures, then she never loved you. She loved the idea of a family with money and no consequences. He didn't have an answer for that. He just sat at my kitchen table, looking lost. I made him a coffee. The silence between us was heavy, but it was honest. My daughter-in-law tried to humiliate me. She thought she was kicking down. She didn't realize she was poking a bear. Now her family was in shambles, her marriage was over, and her father was unemployed. All because she couldn't keep her mouth shut at a dinner party. Some lessons are expensive. Hers cost her father's career. 6 months later, I was reviewing the quarterly reports. The new director for the Northwestern Division had exceeded all targets. Letting Richard go was the right business move. My personal life was quieter. Mark came for dinner every Sunday. He was quieter too, but he was healing. A LinkedIn notification popped up on my screen. It was a connection request from Richard. His profile showed he was now a sales consultant. It's a fancy word for unemployed. I deleted the request. Later that day, my assistant informed me I had a visitor. It was Richard. He stood in my office doorway, looking older, diminished. Margaret, please. I need 5 minutes. I nodded for him to sit. He didn't speak for a long moment. My house is in foreclosure, he said, his voice hollow. Chloe. She's gone. Moved to another state. My wife won't even look at me. I waited. Was a good salesman, he said, almost pleading. I've built that region from the ground up. You were a mediocre manager who coasted on past success. I corrected him. The numbers don't lie. The numbers, he repeated, a bitter laugh escaping him. This is about the numbers. Or is it about my daughter calling you a name? I leaned forward, my hands folded on the desk. It's always about the numbers, Richard. The dinner just showed me the character of the man behind them. A man who raised a cruel, entitled daughter. That lack of discipline showed in your work. You got sloppy. I don't keep sloppy people. He stared at me, finally understanding there was no appeal. No heartfelt apology would change this. This wasn't personal. It was corporate. And that was so much worse. He stood up and left without another word. I never heard from him or Chloe again. Mark started dating a nice teacher from his school. He brings her over for dinner sometimes. She calls me Ms. Jenkins and always offers to help with the dishes. My daughter-in-law called me a fat pig. She thought it was a joke. It cost her father his career, her parents, their marriage, and her comfortable life. She learned a very simple, very expensive lesson. Don't insult the person who signs the checks.